on, everyone, and welcome to Unlocked with Keys. I am your host, MykeyaLatia, also known as Keys, and on today's episode, we are interviewing a solo traveler, a Detroit social worker, and an advocate for traveling abroad, Wendy Cortes. Hi.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for unlocking your story with me.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So you carry just an abundance of titles, and you have such an inspirational story, and I really enjoyed it when I read it. I'm like, wow. And just when you reached out to me, I'm like, oh my goodness, like we have to talk about this. So how's it like first to even have built that courage to share your story?
Well, I mean, for me specifically, because whenever I do travel, I don't see very many women, and I don't see very many people of color. And that's sad. And a lot of people think about it as it's something that's just never going to happen for them. It's something that only wealthy people, privileged people, X, Y, and Z can do, and that's not true because I fit into none of those boxes. It's just I made it happen because it's something I really wanted to do, and I do believe it's life-changing and life-altering in sometimes very bad ways, but they always end up in helping you grow.
Right.
And get exposed to knowledge and experiences that you wouldn't otherwise be exposed to here at home. And I love sharing it because I want to push people to go out and do it. And they're like, well, I don't have anyone to travel. I was like, bet. Go out there by yourself and learn about things. Like, explore other worlds, and in doing so, you're exploring yourself. And I'm just a huge advocate for it. And every opportunity I have, like, I want to talk about it. And I want to answer people's questions. And I want to motivate them and inspire them to go out and take that step because I know it can be scary.
Oh my God, and I love that because, like you said, it's scary. I've taken like a few trips, not like fully by myself, but traveled there to meet with a friend or something. And like to me, I was like, oh, that was big. And friends are like, oh my God, why are you doing this by yourself? And I'm like, I'm not waiting on you guys. That's the first thing. But yeah, I like that. So tell me, when you say like the different growth when you experienced during traveling, what about in the beginning of time before you started becoming a solo traveler? What about your upbringing that brought you into the woman that you are today?
Well, I grew up with just my mom. It was like single mom, and we grew up in Holland, Michigan, on the west side of the state, which is a little beach town, but it's very segregated and it's very conservative. So for us, it was rough because like my mom, she immigrated over here from Mexico. So we were women, we were Latinas, we were immigrants, and we were poor in a town like Holland. So it was a little rough. And then I went off to U of M and had to kind of navigate that space of being the first one to even graduate from high school and not knowing what was going on, not knowing how to handle certain things, how to handle emotions, personal life, family struggles, and then still trying to get by. And I didn't have anywhere to go to, but I knew I wanted to travel. And I knew that I really, really wanted to see other things. I didn't want to stay in Michigan. I didn't want to stay in this area. Like, I want to go out and explore different worlds and different cultures. And it just kind of happened for me one day.
For you?
Yeah.
Wow. So when you said Holland, Michigan? Wow. So what were some like adverse like challenges that you experienced just growing up in that area? You know, coming from, from Mexico and coming, into such an experience like that.
Yeah. What I experienced the most was just people assuming that I was X, Y, and Z, like giving me the stereotype before I even got an opportunity to speak. I mean, I had a bad attitude, I'll give them that, but that's because I had to. Like, I had to protect myself. And I was very intelligent, and a lot of times I had to push myself even harder just to be seen. I was taking AP classes and all of that because I knew I needed to get out. Because if I didn't get out, my family was going to continue on this cycle. And there was just like a cycle of violence, a cycle of different forms of abuse, a cycle of just depression, mental health disorders, and then also poverty and not being able to get out of it. And people would think because I was Latina and because my family was immigrants, that meant I was going to be X, Y, and Z. You're going to drop out of high school, you're going to go do this, you're going to end up in a dead-end job, you're going to have multiple kids and not have anything to show for it. And I remember going to my counselor, for example, and him telling me that I shouldn't go to U of M because I wouldn't make it there. And I remember sitting there looking at him like, yo.
You're my counselor.
Yeah, you're my counselor, and I'm on the dean's list. I've taken all the AP courses possible. Like, I've outperformed a lot of your kids that had the support system, that had the money, that had the tutoring, that had the resources. And you're sitting here telling me that I shouldn't go because of your own assumptions about me. And that was hard because my family didn't know what that was like. There was nobody to tell me, Wendy, do this. Wendy, listen to this person. Wendy, take these resources to kind of get ahead. Right. And they couldn't understand the hardships that came with trying to navigate your own culture, your own community, your own hardships, and still trying to get ahead without them looking at you like, oh, you changed. You think you're better. It's like, no, I'm trying to be better for myself and for you. So it's battling your family expectations and the own trauma bonds that you have with them, and then other people trying to keep you in that space despite you showing up time and time again and be like, no, like I need to get out of here, and they're trying to keep you from doing that. So I remember when I got into all the colleges in petty fashion, I went and submitted all my applications letters to my high school. And I remember when they started announcing all the colleges that I got into, so many other people like turned around and looked and just shocked because I didn't fit the schema of what they saw as a successful individual or just a driven person. I was like, that's fine. And as soon as I left, I was like, deuces, I'm out.
I made it.
Never coming back. And then I went to a place like U of M, and it was just like culture clash, and that was a whole thing. But
tell me about the culture clash at U of M.
U of M, beautiful university. It was just, it's very white dominated. And you had to, again, prove yourself over and over again. And just because I was Latina, I was like, oh, you're only here because of affirmative action. It's like, no, I'm here because I got in. One, affirmative action was non-existent at U of M when I went. Okay. But it was having to go to war with not only other students, but professors that looked down on you for X, Y reason. They had no reason to. They saw your transcripts. They saw what you came in with. But because of what you look like, because of what you identified, they just treated you differently. And like in the School of Social Work, when I went to get my master's, I remember sitting in a classroom with people who wanted to become social workers and having to explain to them topics such as racism, discrimination, the fact that segregation does still exist.
Wow.
The criminal justice system, and things that for me are very salient and it's very obvious, and they were so just ignorant to it. And I'm looking at them like, you want to come and work with these communities, these vulnerable communities, and you don't even fully understand like the key core issues at hand. And it was that over and over again.
How did you feel? Like, because they don't understand our walks of life, and neither do we fully understand their walk of life. And we are on the outside of their life, and they're on the outside of our life. So how did you feel having to explain that to them? Like, these are things that are brutally happening every day in our society. How did that make you feel?
Angry. Definitely angry. And it was a push and pull between being angry and frustrated with them to then pitying them. Like, you don't even know. You've had these privileges, you've had these resources, these support systems that you just don't know any better, and I can't be mad at you. So I'm gonna educate you, but then at the same time, it's not my job to educate you.
Right.
You need to go and do this for yourself. And having to learn how to remove myself from certain situations that I'm not gonna win. Like, going head to head with someone who genuinely just doesn't understand and isn't trying to understand. They're just arguing just to argue and learning how to be like, I disagree with you. In my mind, you're an idiot. You're ridiculous right now. But I'm still going to walk away because this isn't giving me anything. You're just trying to argue about something that is very important to me. You just don't understand because you simply can't. So I'm going to remove myself from that and pray to God that you don't end up in some position of power.
Have you had any interactions or any encounters with the people that you've had to, educate on, the racial, the segregation issues? Have you ever had any encounters with them?
Outside of U of M, not necessarily.
Okay.
No.
Okay, I was
Once
wondering
I
if
left, it was like, I'm out, cutting ties, and I didn't have the best, I didn't feel like the social work program did what it claimed to do, and there was just a lot of problems within it, and it was the #1 program in the country, so I was just a little shocked that a lot of these problematic things were being said and being done in the school by professors, by students, and just lack of facilitation skills, lack of being able to break things down, and just kind of ignorance in a way from the side of some of the professors. So once I left, and then I did reach out to the U of M School of Social Work to take an intern.
Okay.
So I was like, I know your internships sometimes aren't the best. Like, give me someone and I will make sure that she gets a full-rounded experience before y'all throw her out to work in the field. Like, let me help her because y'all aren't going to do that good of a job.
And that's what I was going to say. Like, what do you think they can do? Because even, like, aside from, like, the professional, you have, like, the schools and stuff, you still have companies, you know, clothing lines who put out these, you know, racial things, and they don't even consider it to be, you know, blackface or, you know, like the monkeys. And, you know, they don't consider that to be controversial. Like, what do you think that, you know, people can do to help educate these people on these different issues?
I think one of the biggest things is representation, because you're having people of color come in and do the educating to the people that should be the ones that are doing the educating. So, for example, in School of Social Work, we didn't have that many professors of color. And the few that we did left the first year I was there because they weren't being respected enough and they weren't being paid their worth. But we had other professors that were teaching a very problematic class and making 3 times as much as they were. And it's like, you have this professor that is not just a professor, but they're a mentor, they're an advocate, and they're doing some real things in the community for students, but you're not supporting them to want to stay. So they're gonna dip out and go somewhere else where they are supported and when they are getting what they deserve. And I think that lack of representation and also lack of respect to other people that are coming to the forefront, like, I can't speak of this just because I'm a person of color, but I can speak of this because I have the experience, I have the knowledge. And that isn't respected in a lot of these fields. Marketing, a lot of times you don't have somebody to speak up for that, and when they do, they're silenced because of whatever reasons, a lot of the times because of identities that they have. Or they don't want to speak up because they've learned they're not going to be heard, or they might even be punished.
Right. And that could save so many different, you know, so much confusion, as they want to put it. Confusion, we'll do that for them. But it can save so much of that, you know. That was definitely needed because people need to know. They just do. It's a lot of conversation about it, but no one really thinks about, okay, how can we help this? How can we make this better?